This is the 46 of 46 podcast summit session, where we'll talk all things Adirondack, backcountry, and beyond. From high peak stories and adventures to trail tips and tricks, we'll dive deep into the heart of these mountains and the people who passionately climb them. Adirondack maps and spruce traps to bushwhacks and backpacks. It's all here on the 46 of 46 summit sessions. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Summit Sessions right here on the 46 of 46 podcast. This week, I have a guest in studio with me here to talk about some mountains that are near and dear to my heart. We are going to do an episode talking about the Lake Placid 9'er. Yes, because the self-supported FKT was just set about 2 weeks ago now by Syd Steger, and she is here in the studio with me to talk all about it. We're going to hear the story. We're going to hear all about her journey through the mountains to get to the mountains in Lake Placid, and then through the mountains one by one as she went after the FKT. Syd, welcome to the 46 of 46 podcast, and welcome to my house also.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Happy to be here.
It's nice to have do episodes in person. Most of the time people aren't in the Adirondacks, so it's a pleasure to get to do that with you. Before we get moving and talking about the Lake Placid 9'er Challenge, the FKT that you set, how did you get into the outdoors? Give us a little background about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm from Buffalo, quite far away from here. I was always athletic growing up, but we didn't really have any woods around us. Being in Buffalo, no mountains, nothing like that. I was always athletic growing up until I got into running eventually. But I ended up coming up to the Adirondacks on a trip with a friend in October of 2020. Set out to hike Algonquin and Wright, and failed because I was unprepared.
Right.
So
where along the ride did you fail?
About 3,500 feet. Where
okay. Oh, so
it became icy.
You didn't get up either of them. Got it.
No, I didn't get up either of them. I was prepared for winter conditions, but it had rained the night before, which froze above 3,500 feet. So didn't even make it past the junction, really. So I went home, did some research, and began winter hiking instead.
That's a natural progression to fail because of winter conditions and then say, okay, I'm going to winter hike now.
Yeah.
Good call.
I got everything I needed. I was very prepared and went out to hike Porter and Cascade, as everyone does. And those are my first two high peaks. The next week came back up, Esther and Whiteface. And then from there on, and then I began working at the Adirondack Mountain Club in the summer of 2021 and worked there the last 3 summers. And now this is my first year here full time.
Great. Yeah, you're a Lake Placid resident now.
I am.
All right. How's that going for you so far?
Fantastic.
It's amazing that you've even found a place to rent, because it's like, I get messages. I'm not even kidding you. I get messages from people all the time asking me if I know of people renting places. Like, dude, I don't know. Everything is an Airbnb now, but that's great. I'm glad you're here. So you're here full time now. So how is full-time Lake Placid life treating you?
Amazing. I love it. I never run out of things to do. On every single one of my days off, I'm out doing something. Yeah. Whether that's a long run or a hike or meeting up with a friend, something like that. It's been a really fun time.
That's great. No, it's a beautiful place. What do you do at the Adirondack Mountain Club?
I stopped working at the Adirondack Mountain Club this past fall and began working at EMS Lake Placid.
Okay, great. Eastern Mountain Sports. Shout out to EMS. Thanks for all the hookups you guys give me. Big EMS guy, and if you'll notice, any of my pictures on my Instagram page are usually me wearing some sort of EMS gear, and that is because before I started working with EMS, I always used their gear anyways. It has never failed me, so shout out to EMS. I appreciate you guys. But very cool. So you're here in Lake Placid full time. It's probably like 2 years ago at this point, I put up a post that ended up was one of the most viewed posts I've ever done and got the most traction. When I had a hashtag move to the 80K because I'm, have this desire to get young people to move here, to live here, because the town needs young people. No town will flourish without it. So I'm stoked to see that you're here. In fact, when I did that post, I had 5 or 6 businesses ask me so what happened in different organizations? Did you get a lot of people responding? It was actually a really random post, but it ended up being very, very important. I built some relationships from it, but glad to see you here full time and, living the life, living the Adirondack life that people want to live. You're from Western New York, just like probably 90% of my listeners tend to be from Western New York. And then you came up here, worked at the Mountain Club, and then stayed and have made this your life. So I commend you for that. And I appreciate that as another Lake Placid local. I appreciate that. So tell me now about your journey before you started the Lake Placid 9'er Challenge. So you're a 10K runner. Mm-hmm. That's kind of your background. And we crossed paths in the Lake Placid Classic last year, not this current year, but last year. So tell me about your kind of athletic journey, because I know that's part of the story that led you into where you are. But yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah. So as I said, I was pretty athletic growing up, but I didn't take very well to team sports. I started out playing soccer, I think like most 4-year-olds do. And my dad offered me, I think it was 25 cents if I touched the ball and $2 if I scored. I don't think I ever made any money playing soccer. That was not for me, I guess. That was not where I was headed. Then they put me in T-ball. Also not great. And then I did Taekwondo, which actually stuck and took. And after 4 years, I got my black belt in Taekwondo.
Awesome.
And then after that, I started golfing, which was, I think, a dream of my dad's, to get me involved in golf. And that also went really well. 4 years of golf, maybe 4.5. And then my 9th grade global studies teacher got me into running. And I started running my junior year of high school. I started running track and field. I was running I think the 400 and the 600. And then it was a progression from then on of just longer distances. So I was going to college at SUNY Brockport, and I emailed the coach before attending school and said that I was interested in joining the track and field team. And I heard back and was given a walk-on spot. And I didn't see much success in running my first 2-3 years on the team, I would say. I was probably 14th, 16th on the team, so not even making conference championships, let alone regionals. And then COVID came, and my senior season was taken away because of COVID. And I ended up going to grad school at SUNY Brockport, where I got my master's eventually. And that year, my first year in grad school, I started running the 10K. And it was almost like kind of instant success in the 10K. Not many people do it, so it's not as hard to qualify for a championship in the 10K because it's top 16 in the conference that get to go. So you qualify, you hit the standards, and I did that my first year running it, and then my second year running it, I actually hit the regional standard. So I was able to then go to All Atlantic Regionals running. I think it was one of the top 10 times in school history with a 40-22. And that's kind of where my running really took off. That's where my confidence kind of started growing in running. I never saw myself as a good runner. I always said that I was decent. I'm okay at this, but I'm not good at what I'm doing. And then I started running road 10Ks where my Lake Placid Classic. I love the Lake Placid Classic. It is my favorite race to run every year. I was talked into doing the half marathon this year, and thankfully I did.
Yeah, and it was a wet one.
It was a wet one. That was a really rainy day. Probably
yes. 4 inches of rain came down that day, and side story. I don't think I've told this on the podcast yet. There would have been no reason to. I don't think, but I was soaking wet. So by the time from parking my van to walking over to like where we start to run, it's as if I jumped in a lake with all my clothes. I'm like, that's how wet I was just from going from van to the race. And we got 4 inches of rain that day, which I'm pretty sure like snow equivalent is an inch of rain is the equivalent of a foot of snow. So to just give you some idea as to how wet we're talking. And that is what the race was. And it was squishy, but it's amazing. You did the half marathon under those conditions. I did the 10K and it went well. I actually did it faster. I did it like 5 minutes faster than I did it last year because there was a lot more of like, I just want to be done. So I had that kind of mental push to just okay, I want to be done. This sucks because it's so wet. But yeah, congratulations on doing that under like really difficult conditions. But continue.
Yeah, the conditions of that day were a little ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, after
great story now though.
After warm up, I was completely soaked through my jacket, my rain jacket and everything, my Gore-Tex rain jacket, soaked through. Shoes were soaked, and our starting line was, I think, in about 6 inches of water.
It was bad.
The finishing mats were floating when we started the race. I actually have always hated the rain. I have always despised running in the rain. It has been I don't know if I can say worst fear because it's not a fear, but I really strongly dislike running in the rain.
I get it.
And thankfully this summer it was so incredibly wet up here.
Yep.
And I was hiking in the rain all the time. And I had a few friends that have taught me how to have fun in the rain. My friend Heidi was a guide this summer, and she was guiding in the rain all summer long. Mm-hmm. And I think, Heidi looks at a day, whether it's rainy or sunny, as the same, and it doesn't matter to her. And then Katie Rhodes, nothing stops Katie from running. So, we were doing that one effort, and Katie just kind of jumped into waist deep water like it was nothing, and then just kept on going. And I kind of just looked at it and looked at her, and she was like, we have to go through it. And I was like, all right. So I think after, this summer, I've kind of come around to not hating the rain as much.
Sure.
And, I think having the half marathon of that with those conditions was kind of like, a test to like, well, now like, what did you learn this year? And now like put it forward.
But I think also too, not to cut you off, I think, it can still suck. Like you can still be like, it sucks going out in the rain, especially you live here. So you can kind of pick and choose when you do certain things. But when you just got better. You learned to persevere. You learned to overcome these really unfortunate circumstances to still enjoy the adventure. And, a rainy day presents itself. It's just like a different adventure than it is on a sunny day. It's still fun. It's still cool. Sometimes it sucks. Yes. But sometimes sunny days suck too for different reasons. You're hot, so hot. Sometimes that sucks. But in general, it made you a little stronger, and it made you able to enjoy it for what it is, even though it's not necessarily as enjoyable as those Bluebird days, but still good though. Still good.
After a while, I was having a great time.
Sure.
I think after mile 6, it didn't even bother me anymore.
You forget that it's even raining anymore.
Once we got to River Road, I was having a blast. I was just hitting my splits, and I didn't care about how wet it was outside. But yeah, it was a great day.
Great. I'm glad to hear it. So now you went from professional soccer player. You were a professional. You were being paid to play soccer at 4 years old by dad. Then you played some golf. You did some other things. You eventually found running. And then you have eventually found trail running. And through Katie and Bethany, who have sat in that very seat that you're sitting in, and, told their unbelievable stories that they've had. So take me through that transition of how you kind of got introduced to not just, like you've been hiking, but we'll call it competitive version of hiking, because they're doing athletic endeavors in the mountains. So like, what was that transition? What brought you into that world?
Yeah. So as I said in my Instagram post, 2 years ago, I was driving up to the Adirondacks. I lived 6 hours away, so I had a lot of time to listen to music and podcasts, and I was listening to the 46 of 46 podcast.
Thank you.
And it was Bethany and Katie's episode on their 46 through hike. And I've never heard of FKTs before, and I was newer to the Adirondacks, so I knew of the 46. I think I was most of the way through them at that point, if not all the way through them. And I was just listening to them talk about these FKTs and these crazy things that they were doing in the mountains, and I thought to myself, like, oh, like that would be really cool if I could do that one day. Like an FKT, that sounds so awesome. But like I said, I'd only run 6.2 mile races and never really took to trail running. I tried it and it just wasn't working out for me. And then being up in the Adirondacks, the more I was up here, I finished my first round of the 46, my second round of the 46. Put more trail running in there a little bit. I'm talking like to Marcy Dam and back to the lodge, or a Marcy Dam loop, maybe out to Avalanche Lake, but nothing serious. And then this summer I took to trail running a lot more. I made more friends that were into trail running, and I went on runs with them a lot. And I don't know when I decided that I was going to do an FKT, but I did an effort with Katie this summer. I supported an effort, her Malcolm Traverse that she wanted to do, her project that she was working on for a really long time. I somehow was lucky enough to be a part of that. And after that day, that long, hard day of 30 miles and about 12,000 feet of elevation gain, I was like, this is something that I think I actually want to try to do, something that's actually worth it. But I knew 2 weeks later I was going to be training full time for my half marathon, and that I probably was just going to have to chalk it up to doing it next year. I'll do something next year. And then I think I reached out to Katie about trying the ultra just in faster than I did it before. I have hiked it before in 16 hours. And I was like, do you think that I could do this faster? And she was like, yes, obviously you could do this faster. You could probably do the FKT. And I was like, whoa, no, I can't do the FKT. Come on, that's crazy. And she's like, no, seriously, like, I think you could do it. And it put it in my head, I think in about September. And then I ran my half marathon, did really well in it. And that gave me some more confidence to be like, well, physiologically, you've never been stronger. Your VO2 max has never been higher. So why don't you try it now? And then the other issue was conditions. It's late October now.
Sure.
And it has started to snow. Conditions on Hurricane and Catamount were a concern going into it. But Katie was kind of like the driving force behind like, no, I think you can do this, and giving me some more confidence in it, because I was really unsure about it and I didn't know if I was going to go for it or not. But yeah, so I decided, fine, let's do it. Let's just see how it goes.
I love it.
And if I don't get it, I don't get it. And Katie had just run a 100-mile race over in New Hampshire. So she wasn't recovered enough yet to do the effort with me. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it by myself. And then if I don't get it, we'll do it next summer together. And that was the plan. So it was just give it a go, see what happens. And I drafted out a plan, I think, to be around 10 and a half hours, and then just went from there.
Yeah. And not even did it just go from there. You did it. No, I don't mean to spoil the story, but she accomplished the goal. But we'll get into that. So you were inspired by Katie and Bethany, who, shout out to both of you. You guys are studs. And I get people messaging me all the time talking about one of your episodes because they're highly downloaded and highly listened to, because you two inspire a lot of people. And I know you'll listen to this podcast episode. So shout out to both of you. But their stories are incredible. And that's the type of mentality, as someone like myself who pushes myself physically and pushes my circle of people physically. I love when other people exude that confidence in you. Like Katie, Katie put confidence in you. Like it wasn't on your radar, but she told you could do this. And it's amazing how powerful that is for somebody, when somebody who's done, kind of like the things that you want to be able to accomplish and says, you could do this. I mean, it gets you in a totally different mind frame. And, without that, who knows if you would have gone after it or pushed or throughout the day been like, no, I can do this. She told me I could do this, and we're out here. So that's great. I love hearing stories like that. Now you got the self-supported FKT. So tell us what the self-supported FKT means.
Yeah. So the self-supported FKT is just an FKT that you set receiving no help from anyone else. You can't stash any of your gear. You can't stash any food. No one can give you a ride. I don't think anyone can even spectate. I think they even changed some of the rules there that no one can even watch you do it. Whether no one can really spectate what I was doing, but I think that's a new rule in the FKT. I'm not too sure on that though. So,
okay. So is that different? So self-supported, is that different from just supported FKT, or is the self just an irrelevant word?
I think I know there's self-supported, unsupported, and then supported.
Yeah,
and
that's what I thought.
All mean
different things.
Something different.
Sure.
So self-supported, you can give yourself car rides, you can help yourself, and then unsupported, you're not getting any help from any cars or anything like that.
That
so
I know.
You're just walking.
And then, so what's the difference between self-supported FKT and supported FKT?
So the supported FKT, someone, if I was to traverse one of the mountains, someone could give me a ride to another one.
Oh, sure,
someone
okay.
could give me food.
Somebody else, I get it.
Yeah,
I totally get it.
someone, if I forgot something at home, someone can bring it to me. Someone can, be supportive in some way.
Okay.
Whereas a self-supported, I'm just relying completely on myself. So if my watch died, that was it. No one could, bring me my charger or anything like that. If I forgot my food at home, which spoiler, I did forget some of my food. No one can bring it to me.
Yeah.
Self-supported. You're completely on your own.
Yeah. And then
good luck.
So then at that point, unsupported it's just you on your feet, which obviously you can't do the Lake Placid. I mean, you could, I guess, technically do the Lake Placid.
I think someone has biked between all the trailhalls.
That I do know. I've heard. I don't know. I mean, is it on the website?
I think it is.
Oh, is it?
Self-powered.
Cool. Okay, yeah. No, I've heard of people doing things, and it's funny. Like half the time I don't hear people might do these things, but like I don't hear about it. It's always interesting when I hear fun stories about the LP9 in particular. But anyways, yeah. So that's cool. So 30 miles. It's like it's like 10,000 feet of gain, kind of in that ballpark, in case you people aren't aware of the Lake Placid 9'er is 9 different peaks around the Lake Placid region, and none of them connect. They're all completely different mountains, up one, all the way back down into your car and onto the next trail. And they're great little mountains. If you haven't hiked them, I cannot recommend them enough. I have a soft spot for all 9 of them. And they all present a different type of Adirondack experience, different type of views, but collectively, it is just an Adirondack adventure through and through. But anyway, so let's get into the story. So tell us your story. So again, she hiked, she did all 9 in 10 hours, 35 minutes, and 42 seconds. That's wild. And so you drove yourself to all the mountains. It was just you, yourself, and Irene that day. So you started on Joe, then Van Hovenberg, Pitchoff, Cobble Hill, so the Lake Placid 4, then on into the Wilmington area for Bear Den and Catamount, and then all the way over to the Keene area for Baxter, Hurricane, and Big Crow. All right. Mountain number 1, Mount Joe. Take us through it. Let's hear the story.
Let's get into it. So Mount Joe, I chose to do Mount Joe first because it is the one I'm the most familiar with. Working at the Adirondack Mountain Club, Mount Joe is in your backyard.
Yes.
I've done Mount Joe countless times. I don't even know how many times I've done Mount Joe.
And it never gets old either.
It never gets
old.
Every time I do Mount Joe, I'm like, I don't remember this. Why is this here? So I chose Joe because I could do Joe in the dark. I did Joe in the dark with Katie on her effort.
What time did you start? So you're in the dark. What time did you start this?
I started a little later than I had planned. I think I started at like 6:37 a.m. The plan was a little earlier than that, but again, I had 10 and a half hours of daylight, and so that was my goal, to be finishing in daylight.
Yeah, and it's just you. There's no one else that needs to help you. So you can start whenever you feel like it.
It's just me. Yeah. So no one else is relying on me here. I'm just relying on myself. So headed up Joe. It was a little chilly. I think the temps for the day never got above 39. It was in the 30s all day. I got to the lodge, said hi to my friend Nash in the booth. Told him I was going to be there for 25 minutes. He said, okay. And I parked my car, headed up Joe. Sun was rising as I got to the top. That's the picture that is in my post and the post that Women Who FKT just posted.
Awesome.
So the sun was already rising by the time I got to the top of Joe, headed back down. Still needed my headlamp for a little bit there. Ran back out to the booth. I recorded booth to booth, and it was about 34 minutes up and down Joe. Right into my car, onto Van Ho.
All right. And so what did you have? What was your gear? So obviously, when you're doing the Lake Placid 9, especially when you're doing it in this capacity, you can have very minimal stuff. Eat your food, drink your water in your car because you're going up, down, back in your car. So you can really do these mountains with very minimal stuff. I'm not saying everybody should, but if you're the experienced hiker and you're doing these types of fast events, you can absolutely make that happen. So what was your gear?
Yeah. So
I'm not a gear guy, but most people who listen are huge gear nuts. So take me with your gear.
Yeah. So for a few of them, it differed between a lot of them, honestly. So for the smaller ones like Joe and Cobble and Big Crow, I just had on a running belt that my phone could fit into with a sleeve of Cliff Blocks. I brought my trekking poles on every single one. Just in case I needed them. And I learned that on my effort with Katie that they are very useful for getting up very steep things quickly. So I brought my trekking poles on every one. I had a running vest for all of the other ones that weren't Cobble, Joe, or Big Crow. I have an extra small Nathan Pinnacle vest and a small one. So the small one can fit a little bit more in it. The extra small one fits a little bit more snug, so I can carry less in it without it, sloshing all over the place. So on most of them, I carried one small little water bottle because none of them took longer than an hour and a half. Some food, some first aid, things like Medi-Lite if I needed that for electrolytes, or ibuprofen, stuff like that. I did carry Band-Aids with me, but I ended up never using them, even though I probably should have at some point.
All right.
But my friend Brady said that if it's small enough to need a Band-Aid, you don't need a Band-Aid.
No, I like that. I like that attitude.
So
and if it's too big that a Band-Aid won't work, it's time to go.
Yeah. She said gauze and duct tape will do you good. Sure. So that's what she carries. And so I think that's what I'm going to start doing because she's right.
No, it's very smart. It's very
If you need a
wise.
Band-Aid, you don't need a Band-Aid.
Yeah. What was on your feet?
Hoka Speed Goats.
Hoka Speed Goats. All right. The same shoe that my friend who did the Northeast 115 through hike was wearing. So the Hoka Speed Goats, they seem to be popular. Will, yes.
I ran into him.
Oh, did you
twice during his effort.
Oh, that's so cool.
I did Seymour on one of my days off and saw him there. And then my next day off, I did Allen and saw him
That's awesome.
on Allen.
Shout out to Will Robinson. Cool. So Mount Joe, up, down, back into your car. So how were you feeling as you were in your car? After one mountain down, you're like, you're off to the races. Like you're one mountain in. So this is happening now. So you're heading to Van Hovenberg. And which trail did you do for Van Ho?
The one from the lodge, from
South Meadow.
No, from the Van Ho Lodge, from the mountain lodge there, the bobsled trail.
Oh, from the bobsled trail. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, they just call it the Van Ho.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Mountain
now?
Lodge is over there where all the bobsledders hang out and stuff like that. Yeah. So I did that trail because I love running that trail. I actually complain about that trail a lot because I say it's so long. It's like, can we just go up the mountain now? But I get it. That's the whole point of that trail. Is that it's a sustainable trail.
Yes. The whole point of that trail is for everyone to be able to go, and it's a gradual hike. And I'm just like, can we just go up the mountain now, please? But I get it. And
that's why Feeling Bear done. Can we just go up, please?
Let's climb now. It's time to go up the mountain. Look, I can see if we turn right, we'll go straight up the mountain, then we'll get there faster. Please, can we do that?
Yeah, it has a pretty huge switchback in it.
Clearly, I'm an Adirondack hiker who's gotten used to going straight up the mountains. But anyways, all right. So how were you feeling as you were driving over to Van Hovenberg?
I felt pretty good. I was kind of still in disbelief that I was actually attempting this. I was like, okay, well, now this is happening and people know that you're doing this. So now you're kind of locked in at this point. Unless something goes really wrong, you're doing this. Yeah. So I was feeling great, headed over to Van Ho. I would play music in the car on my way over, eat snacks, stuff like that. The car ride, I think, was only like 10 minutes long though. So I got out at Van Ho, and I think out of the 9, that way up Van Ho is my favorite. It's my favorite sunset hike to do. Just something that you can get in without, it being really difficult, which, it's unlike other Adirondack mountains. I do prefer our Adirondack mountains, but sometimes you need a break.
No, I get it.
Van Ho is the way to go. So
it's great for running too, because the trail, it's not like covered in roots and, worn down roots. It's like you can actually run that trail.
I don't think it goes above a 15% grade.
Sure.
Again, for sustainability purposes. But yeah, there's a lot of stairs though.
There are a lot of stairs.
Became a problem.
Okay. Take us through it.
Yeah. So I got up to Van Ho, no problem. I think I even went past the summit a little bit to go out to the lookout to take a picture. Turned around right away, headed back down. I think I had clearing Van Ho in about 40 minutes on my sheet that I had sent out to my friends Wayne and Katie, who were keeping track of me that day. And so I'm heading back down. Everything's going great. I can see the parking lot, and I end up tripping.
Oof.
Down a set of stairs on Van Ho. And it was kind of those things where you fall and you're just like, no way did that just happen. Like that hurt a lot. Like, can I still run right now?
Oh,
and
man.
I got up and I couldn't walk right. And I was like, did I just end my FKT by falling down, I think the easiest mountain of the day, because that was ridiculous.
Sure.
And I do have a history of falling on my trail runs. And I think that's another part that has always frustrated me about trail running. I'm always falling.
Yeah.
I don't just fall on the roads. I can just run, 13 miles on the road. I'm not tripping over stuff.
That's why I don't, I have a lot of friends that are like, oh, you probably trail run too. It's like, no, I don't. I don't run more than one day a week. I might run one time a week and that's it. I'm not a big runner. But I only will run on the pavement because I don't want to have to think about where am I stepping. So that's why trail running, it just doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, and it never appealed to me.
Roots and rocks. And whereas like on the pavement, I don't. I just
you
listen
just let
to music.
go.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Just run. And that's where I'm a road runner through and through. I love road running and trail running. You have to think about it the entire time. I want to run so I'm not thinking.
Same.
And when I'm trail running, I have to think the entire time. And even with me thinking, I'm getting distracted and I'm tripping and I'm falling and I'm getting hurt.
Sure.
But it happens. And so I'm running down Van Ho. I'm 30 seconds from the parking lot and I fall down these stairs and I gave myself a second and I was just like, okay, just walk it off and see what happens on pitch off. And if it really slows you down that bad, then maybe we have to reconsider. And I get back to my car, my knee's busted open. Oof. I land on my knee and my hip on my left leg. And I was just concerned that it was just going to fatigue throughout the day and that it was going to cause me issues not being able to, crawl up things as well as I could on Catamount or Big Crow. But I told my friends what had happened that were keeping track of me. It was just like, hey, I just fell in Van Ho. Out of all these mountains, I fall in Van Ho. I thought I was going to fall down pitch off, honestly, not Van Ho. And they were just like, you're fine. I think Katie said, like, what's an FKT without a scar to prove it?
There it is, dude. That should be on a t-shirt and a bumper sticker and it should be on their website, quite frankly. So Katie Rhodes with the wisdom right there.
So I was like, okay, you're right. And I didn't do anything to cover it up because I was just like, this is just going to be a waste of my time. So on to pitch off.
Amen. Let's keep it moving.
Pitch off was a very short drive, 5 minutes down the road. Get out of my car, snap my running vest on, and up pitch off we go. Up to this point, I've seen no people. No one's been on trail. I see my first person on pitch off. It was a guy hiking at pitch off in a pair of shorts and a ski jacket.
All right.
I said hello, kept on running. I got up to pitch off faster than I had planned. So that was good, all things considered. And I got down about, I think, overall 10 minutes faster than I had planned. So at that point, I'm 10 minutes ahead. My knee's bleeding all over the place. Again, I'm not going to take care of it because it's a waste of time.
Yeah, there's no time for that.
There's time for that.
You got plenty of blood in your body. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. So pitch off was done. And after pitch off, after I ran it that well, I was like, okay, maybe, this is possible today and you can do this. And, I wasn't still believing that it would be possible by the end of the day. But
did you have any moments on pitch off where, like, did you kind of forget about the fall and that whole thing and you just got back into your zone? Was it on your mind the whole time? And then pitch off's trail too, of like all these mountains, pitch off's trail is definitely the most worn. Were there any moments like that were a struggle?
I couldn't kneel on my knee. It was open and it hurt a lot. So it was swollen at this point. It swelled up pretty quickly. And I couldn't, crawl up, the steep parts of pitch off as I would. And there's one part where I'm a little too short to kind of maneuver around. So that was a little bit of some frustration there, but I figured it out, got up. Coming down was not a problem. My knee was bothering me most of the time, but I think the adrenaline from falling and just getting up to pitch off and just having to do it anyway, I was pretty okay. The rest of the day, it was bothersome, but it was never to the point where like I had to stop. But yeah, it was bothersome, but never too.
Yeah, so you just kind of
catastrophic.
You just kept going, and just like Katie said, "What's an FKT without a scar?" Man, that's good. That's good. That is good. Okay, so you're down you're up Joe, you're down Joe, you're up Van Hovenberg, you're down Van Hovenberg, you're up Pitch Off. So Pitch Off is I believe it's the second tallest Lake Placid 9'er mountain. If not, it's the third, but I'm pretty sure it's the second tallest. It's 3,500 feet, I believe. So it's like almost High Peaks caliber. I mean, it hikes like a high peak.
Yeah.
It hikes like a high peak. So, all right. So you're down Pitch Off. So now you have a little bit more of a drive. Not like it's that far, but a little bit more of a drive. And you're 3 mountains in. And most of the time, people who talk about doing the ultra, the Lake Placid 9'er ultra, or any of these Adirondack mountain hiking challenge ultras, it's the drives that kill them.
Oh yeah.
So this drive, at this point, you're 3 mountains down. How is the drive from Pitch Off to Cobble Hill, which is probably like 10 to 12 minutes, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think it was like 15.
15, is it? Yeah. So that's enough time.
Because you can't park right at the school, so you have to park a little bit down the road.
That's enough time for your, muscles to start being like, you're done. Let me tighten up a little bit.
Yeah. On my drive to Cobble, I think my knee did, get a little tight. So when I got out of the car, I remember getting out and being like, oh, okay. That doesn't feel great. But the rest of my muscles were fine. I was still feeling good. I was hydrating on my drives.
With what? What were you drinking?
So many different things. So I had water. I had multiple Nalgene's of water. I have a lot of water bottles for someone that doesn't usually drink a lot of water. I really struggle with drinking water. Gatorade. I always drink Gatorade. And I had some Tailwind with me. Right. And I've learned that Tailwind is fantastic. Great.
Yeah, everyone seems to use it. I don't personally. I've never had it myself, but
First time I used
have my own things.
Oh yeah, it was great. So between those, I was like just kind of switching everything on and off. Whatever I would reach over and grab is what I was going to drink. And salted watermelon Cliff Blocks are my favorite. So they have a little bit more sodium in them. And I was eating those throughout the day. I think I started the day with like 5 packs of them. Okay. And went through, I think, 4 by the end of the day.
Got it.
But yeah, so I was hydrating, all that, but my knee was still, again, not an issue, but like still like, that happened.
Yeah, exactly. It's there.
Happened.
Figures it's on the second mountain of the day too.
Yeah.
But all right, so Cobble Hill, which is I don't know, I think it's the shortest trail of the 9. If not, Baxter is, but it's either the shortest or the second shortest.
Yeah, Cobble.
Although I guess technically if you think of Big Crow just hikes differently, so it feels like it's like a harder mountain.
Oh, Big Crow.
But yeah, so how'd Cobble Hill go?
Cobble was nice. They rerouted the trail at the bottom there, which it's a really nice trail. It's super soft, no roots, anything like that to throw you off. So it was great running in. And I was able to basically run in all the way until you go up the slab there with the rope on it.
Yep.
And, just made it up there, up Cobble, no problem, and back down. And, Cobble, I think, took 24 minutes.
Yeah, I could imagine.
It's very, very short, very easy. I've done that one multiple times, too. Kind of just like Joe, like, oh, what am I going to do today? Oh, just throw Cobble in there after a run or before a run. It's going to take you just a few minutes to do it.
Sure, same thing. That Cobble is that like, I want to go in the woods real quick. I'm going to run up to Cobble Hill. Yeah. Now, when you say your times, so you're saying 24 minutes. I think you said 40 minutes for Van Ho. This is like trailhead to trailhead. This is up and down, correct?
Yeah, trailhead
these
to
times
trailhead.
that you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they were car to car, depending on how close I could get to the trailhead.
Sure.
For Cobble, that was car to car. I was parked a little bit further down the road because you can't park at the school there. So I was just parked on the side of Mirror Lake and was hoping that I wouldn't get a ticket by the time. There was no signs that said I couldn't.
That's what I do. I do the same thing, and I tell people to do the same thing because that is technically parking along the side of the road. Oh, that is a scrape. She's showing me a picture.
Yeah, that was. I took that on Cobble. That's when I realized, like, oh, hey, maybe
that's some dark blood too. Meaning, it's like it's pouring out of you.
Yeah, so that was fun. But
all right, so at this point, Joe, Van Ho, Pitch Off, Cobble Hill, you're 4 mountains in, so you're approaching. We'll just call it like that, basically halfway point, more or less. On to Wilmington. So now you have a real drive.
Yeah, on to Wilmington, through the Notch and to Bear Den. So on the way to Bear Den, I was in communication with my friends Wayne and Katie. They were the ones that were really with me all day, without supporting me, but just keeping me up to date on things. Unfortunately, I didn't start an elapsed clock at the beginning of the day. So I had no idea where I was. Like I could go by the time of day and keep, adding all of that together. But thankfully Katie was just like telling me like, oh, like you're this far ahead. So heading to Barrington, she was like, you're about 20 minutes ahead of what your plan is. And my plan was 10 and a half hours. So she was like, on Barrington, just, not like relax, but just like, take it easy. Don't push it too hard. You don't want to push yourself to red line right now. You still have, so many mountains to go.
And some big ones still.
And some big ones. So I took Barrington as like, let's run hike this, where I'm going to hike up and run back down.
Smart.
And Barrington is very difficult to run. It's the grade of it is just the most ridiculous to run. I don't know why. But out of all of them, I would say that Barrington is the hardest to run.
Okay.
Surprisingly, a lot of them have elements that you can still run, not Barrington.
Okay.
Barrington is, you can run for like, I think like the first 0.4 in, maybe 0.3 until you hit like the flume trails. And then you're just going straight up Barrington.
Sure.
And you're switchbacking, but you're still going up at, like I said, at a grade that is not very runnable. And maybe other people don't feel that way. I'm sure that Bethany can clear Barrington so quickly, but not me.
Bethany can just jump to the top.
Just jump to the top of Barrington.
She doesn't need to run up. She'll just jump to the top.
Great. Yeah, I'm running with Bethany on Tuesday, and I feel like she's going to absolutely just crush me.
Nice.
But so Barrington, I wanted to get up top. I forget, honestly, I think it was like 35 minutes. I think Barrington was going to take me about an hour. And I got up there a little late, which, I was expecting. It started snowing pretty aggressively on Barrington, like surprisingly a lot. And it was snowing, and that was kind of fun. I love winter hiking. It's my favorite. So the snow kind of made me smile a little bit. And
was there any snow on any of them? I mean, maybe on pitch off, was there any snow at this point, or
it was hailing on pitch off?
But on top, there was nothing.
There was nothing out there.
Sure.
Yeah, no. But I did have some hail on pitch off. I was like, I had one headphone in the entire day, and I kind of heard something going on, and I was like, what is that? And I took my headphone out, and I was like, oh, it's hailing. That's it. It wasn't falling on me, but it was like falling throughout the forest.
You
and
hear
I was
around
like,
the trees. Yep.
But yeah, Barrington, was slow. Barrington was not too slow. But it was a little slow, but it was fine because I was just resetting. I switched my shoes at that point. I was wearing my mid Hoka Speed Goats at that point, and then I switched into my trail runners because I knew I was going to get wet on Hurricane, and I wanted to be as fast as I possibly could be on Catamount. That was the goal. Catamount was kind of what I was fearing the entire time. I've only done Catamount twice, once being in winter, and I've never really gone back out there since then. So I haven't seen Catamount in, I think, 2 years.
Okay.
And just being out there, all alone most of the time. Catamount is very remote.
Catamount is remote. It's also Bigfoot country, but we won't talk about that today.
Yeah. There's a lot of things out there.
A lot of things out
there in the Taylor Pond Wilderness.
Oh my gosh, that is a remote stretch of wilderness. Even as you're driving to it, you're like, man, there's a couple people that live out here. That's wild, but also that it is desolate out there.
You hit a couple dirt roads, like you're just like, where am I right now?
Absolutely.
Where am I? Where did I end up? How did I get here in 25 minutes? Yep. So Barrington was done, and I headed out to Catamount, and I considered that as my halfway point. Once Barrington was done, I kind of
you're
considered
over the hump at that point.
You're over the hump. You have Catamount, and then in my head, the 3 easy ones left, because the ones in Keene are, Van Ho's my favorite, but that stretch of 3 is something that I've practiced before, that I've done before.
Sure.
And I knew that like once Catamount was over, we're good.
That's good. So Catamount's the final test here to get you to the home stretch, which it is for sure.
Yeah.
Although Hurricane's still a long hike, but for someone like yourself, it's
a very flat in and out.
No, it is.
Clear
it's
that so fast.
Probably very runnable, like as you
runnable.
Said.
So Catamount, the first bit of Catamount is also very runnable. It's pretty flat. It's like a snowmobile, trail.
It's a long approach,
Long approach. The issue on Barrington that I've also am now experiencing on Catamount was leaf coverage.
Yeah, it's hard to navigate that trail in particular as
and the trail markers on Barrington, they were once yellow, and they're now black and white.
Yeah, no,
and they're squares.
I get a few comments on Lake Placid 9'er registrations about Barrington, and I've got some about on Catamount too. And I'd like to let people know I have no control over trailhead markers. I have asked the DEC. I've offered to the DEC to go put the trail markers up, and I have been given no authority to do such, or, desire for me to help them out. But there's a few places where like maybe 2, 3 strategic trail markers would be very helpful.
Yes.
But just let the record show that I do not put these trail markers up, and I have offered to help, in particular, Bear Den and Catamount. When you're on Catamount and you think you need to go right, and then you're on the cliffs and you're like, where am I? You should have gone left. Go left. Right after you get out of the chimney, you're going to feel like you should probably go right, but you go left. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, continue.
That was a problem.
I bet. All right, so you had the long approach into Catamount. Nice woods too, right? Those like approach, the woods around that area, like very mossy, and let's just call it Bigfooty. It's very Bigfooty out there, but it's a really nice stretch of woods.
Yeah, so really nice stretch of woods going in, and then it does like that nice little switchback up, and then you just start climbing. So that was all runnable to me. I thought that was pretty runnable. And then you start climbing a little bit, but you can still run a little bit in between each of those. And then once you get to the chimney after that, you're kind of just climbing the entire time. And like I said, I hadn't been up there in a while, and I got through the chimney fine. But once I got past the chimney, I was like, how do people that are under 5'5" get up here? Like, how am I going to get up here right now? Like, again, I had to just like kind of lift myself up onto it. But yeah, that was a climb. And then continuing up, I wanted to get done with Catamount as fast as I could. I didn't want to be there by myself. I had only seen one person headed down Catamount. So at that point I was like, okay, we're alone in the middle of nowhere. So I actually got up Catamount in about 44 minutes.
Awesome.
Fast as I possibly think I could have gotten up there. I was going to say that I probably bit off more than I could chew, saying that I could finish Catamount as fast as hour and a half, I think was my goal. And then I was like, oh wait, that might be too quick because I hadn't practiced it. But it ended up making sense on the way up there, right up there, right on the money. And I was like, okay, now you just can't get lost on the way down, and you're good. Like you can run down faster than 40 minutes. Like this is fine. You're fine. And I'm
real quick before you come down, how are you feeling physically at this point? Because you're like you're into the day. Yeah. And that was a big climb right there. That's the type of climb that can take a lot of steam out of you. Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, no, I still no issues going on. Again, other than if I didn't fall, I think I would have felt great the entire day. And I kind of thought at one point, like, how much faster could we have gone if that didn't happen? But, it didn't, I don't think, affect me to the point where it would have made it that huge of a difference. So no, I'm still feeling good. I'm getting a little tired, I guess, like, just like, I'm a little sleepy. Like I need some caffeine or something. But my body is still fine. So I'm heading down. And I get not lost a couple of times up top, but it's like, oh wait, no, it's over here. Yep. And the trail markers are really spaced out, and the paint swatch on the rock is pretty worn away. Yes. So wait till the winter.
Yeah. In the winter, there's usually, footprints you can follow. Some snowshoe track. But sometimes people are going every which way up there.
Exactly. And then it's like you follow the wrong footsteps, and it's a mess. I get those registration comments as well. Catamount. But anyways, continue.
I thought it was going to be a problem going into the day, and it became a problem. So I'm coming down. I get through the chimney, and then after the chimney, there's that last little outcrop. And if you look at Catamount, like on Google Maps, you can see where like the rocky stuff begins. Right there's a trail that goes straight down, and the trail that you're supposed to take off to the right. The right coming, yes. You're supposed to, coming down, you're supposed to go right, but there's like one straight down to the left a little bit, I think that you mentioned earlier. And I was like, I kind of was not paying attention. I didn't look that way. There was no marker telling me to go that way. It felt right. Yep. So I went right down, and it looked like a trail. And then quickly, it was not a trail. Yep. And I dug myself pretty deep into the woods of Catamount before, I was just running. And I realized at one point, like, this is not the trail. You messed up. The trail. It's funny you say that, because I was up Catamount maybe
in October at some point, so like a month ago. And myself and the person I was hiking with, we did the exact same thing. We went straight down and then we stepped over. Wow, that is a route that you took. We did the same thing. We went left as we were coming down, and then, or actually, it's technically straight. You're supposed to kind of turn right and go across the slabs, but we went left, and then we stepped over a log. I was like, I don't remember stepping over this log. And then we looked around, went back up. Literally the exact, I know exactly where you're talking about.
Yeah.
Once again, one or two very strategic trail markers could be very helpful. But anyways, maybe the DEC will listen to this episode, but I doubt it.
I thought I was going to have to call the DEC. I was like, I need help. Like, my FKT is over. I'm lost on Kennemount right now. There's nobody out here. I was able to look at my GPS and kind of just like scratch my way through all of these trees and moss to get back up to the trail.
Oh, got it. So you didn't even just like turn around and go back up. You just said, okay.
At that point, I was so far in. Yeah. I was like, I can't even turn around.
Yeah.
It's not even possible. So yeah, no, I ended up doing a little loop.
Yeah, I see
where
it.
I came
that
back
is a
up
loop
here.
Indeed.
And then once I got back on trail, I think I hit like mile 17.
And the funny thing is, it's like you take that loop, you take this, this, I'm looking at her GPS track right now. So you take this from here to there is like 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. So this added, how long do you think that added?
I think it added like 8 to 10 minutes on it.
Yeah, I bet it did.
Which was unfortunate. But I just brushed it off. I got down. I actually, on the way down, saw a woman that I was helping in footwear at EMS the day before. She said hello to me. I said hello to her. And I kept on going. I tried to run out about as fast as I could manage at that point. And I got out in an hour and 32 minutes. So
all right.
We were only 2 minutes delayed from that entire thing happening. But next was my biggest drive. Mm-hmm.
A big drive indeed. This is the type of drive where you're just like, I'm done actually.
Where your GPS won't even start getting you to Baxter because it has no service. No service. There's nothing. So thankfully I knew how to get down to Keene. But the first time that I did the ultra, I thought, okay, I just get in my car and, it'll take me to Keene. No. Mm-hmm. So I had to, pull out a map, like my 80K46 map, and get myself to Keene that way. But thankfully I knew how to get back to Wilmington, and then from Wilmington down to Keene through Springfield Road. So I start that drive, and on that drive, I, was starting to feel a little bit of soreness. So, some Advil and some Tailwind got me to Baxter, and I felt amazing on Baxter. Great. No problems there.
A very runnable mountain.
Very runnable.
Baxter Mountain, yes.
Yeah, we'll call that one runnable.
Big time.
Definitely runnable. Some roots and rocks and mud, but nothing, crazy. You can't really run up that one slab, but from there on, you can continue running to the summit. So Baxter went well. I thought that it was going so well that I would be ahead of time, but I actually was right on track for 40 minutes on Baxter as well. So that was 40 minutes. And then one more drive to just park in the Big Crow and Hurricane parking lot. Mm-hmm. So at that point it was like, okay, the last drive, like this is it, like your last drive, and then add 2 hours to wherever you're at. And that's probably going to be your time. Considering, Hurricane's hour and a half in Big Crow's 30 minutes.
Sure.
Or however I chalked it up to be. And so I headed on over there, started Hurricane, and that first mile into Hurricane is really great. I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
I can hit I think I hit less than an 8-minute mile headed in there. And then you start climbing, and then there's mud and water and all that fun stuff. But I made it through there just fine that first mile. And then I started climbing, and I was getting kind of tired, and I was like, you didn't really eat anything from Catamount to Baxter, did you? Ooh. You just drank Tailwind and had some Advil, and that's what you did. So I had to slow down a little bit because I had stuff in my vest, and I was just eating as much of it as I could. Some goos, some Cliff Blocks, some granola bars, things like that. Made it up Hurricane a little slower than I wanted to. Made it down a little slower than I wanted to. I think I was plus 6 minutes by the time I got back down. But at that point, I was already, ahead of the FKT, and figured, no matter what your time is, like, you still have it. Like, just get through Big Crow. Just finish. Get through Big Crow. You're fine. You might not be under your, 10 and a half, but you're still going to be ahead of the 11:46. So headed up Big Crow, and I actually started it with my vest on. And in my vest for Catamount and Hurricane, I had a jacket and my spikes just in case I needed them.
Yeah, I get it.
Didn't need them on either one of them, but I had them just in case. So my vest for those two was a little heavier. And I started running Big Crow with it on and quickly just took it off and hung it on, a down tree and continued up Big Crow with just my phone in my hands, honestly. And as I'm climbing up Big Crow, anytime I would push off of my left leg, I would get a cramp in my hamstring. And I didn't know if that was like my injury finally fatiguing for the day or if that was me just not having enough electrolytes in me.
Didn't have enough food. Yep.
So not ideal for a Big Crow. Every time you take a big step, you're taking only big steps for that last 0.5. And that was, a little bothersome. It was every single time I would take a step, it was like, ooh, okay. So I had to slow down on Big Crow. I get up Big Crow, and I'm heading back down, and everything goes fine. Once you get back to that flat spot, it's like, okay, this is almost over. Like you're almost done. 0.2 to go, and you're done.
Before we get to that last bit, how did you feel on the summit of Big Crow? Because you're like, okay, I'm at the top of the last mountain, or does that not even faze you because you still have to get back down? Or did you have any sort of moment of like triumph for a second? Or no? It could be no. Okay, so you still got to go back down.
It was a no. I got up there and I was like, okay, good. Another one down. Took my summit picture, headed back down. Got back to the trailhead, and my friend Wayne had met me there at the end because he couldn't be there any other time because that would have been supported. Yep. So he met me there at the end, and he had some hot chocolate for me, and I was just like, I need food, like some real food, and I want a shower. And I didn't seem very excited or happy at all. I mean, I was, but it was kind of like, when I finish a race, it's like instant, like gratification and positivity. I just did that. I can't believe that I just did that. Like, that was so awesome. I really enjoyed that. And then after this effort, it was kind of just like, what? What did I just do? And why did I do it? And I was, again, happy that I have done it, but I was just like, I need a second first to like, kind of digest all of this. Maybe some real food.
Some food and a shower.
Goo and Cliff Blocks.
Some food and a shower. And then now I'll talk. Now I'll be excited. And I feel the same way, honestly, after like a long day of hiking. Let me get home, let me shower, let me change. And then it's like, that's when the dopamine high kicks in my opinion, after when it's all over. And then it's like, oh, and then you're thinking about the day. Because in the moment, you feel disgusting. You're tired. You're hungry. It's cold. You're wet.
Oh, yeah.
Totally get it.
And I was cold and wet most of the day. Yeah. I switched my shirt throughout the day because I would, sweat, and then I would get really cold on the way down. And then, I didn't want to ever head back up another mountain already soaking wet because I didn't want to start wet. Bad idea. But I ended up wearing the same pair of shorts the entire day. But I did change my shirt here and there. But I was wet. I was cold. And my shoes were soaked from Hurricane. Sure. And I was just like, okay.
But you did it though.
I did it.
You did it. So so you were cold, you wanted to shower, you wanted some food. When did like the moment of triumph kick in for you?
I think when, I had a second, I got in my car, and I think I checked in with Katie and was like, hey, like, I'm done. Like, it's done. It's over. And I let my Strava upload and stuff like that. And then once I got home and like talked to, I think, my roommate about it, and I was just like, yeah, like that it happened. And it was kind of like realizing that like I did it. And I think like other people's reactions to it, like, cause to me, it wasn't that big of a deal. It's the Lake Placid 9. It's not the 46 through hike. It's, to me, it was just like, oh, my silly little FKT that I'm going to try to do.
Sure.
And then it kind of just turned into something that was, pretty important. But I didn't really realize how important it was until I had people reaching out to me to, do blogs and things like that about it.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I think it slowly hit me more, after the fact and like the days following. I was like, okay, this was pretty cool. And you did something pretty cool. And, Katie and my other friends, kind of really help with that, telling me like, no, like this was a big deal and you crushed it. And I'm just like, yeah, but and they're like, stop.
No, it's okay. Let your friends celebrate you and celebrate what you did. And you're always going to think, you're kind of a douchebag if you don't kind of feel this way, but it's like, let your friends, show you some praise and accomplishment that you did. As opposed to you being like, yes, I did that, beating your chest. It's a little more humble, and it's a little more graceful when your friends can put you on their shoulders, and that before you say, I need to put, it's like you telling me to put you on my shoulders, as opposed to let me put you on, because it's when your friends, when the people around you can praise you and build you up, that shows you what you did and that it meant something to other people, which therefore it ends up meaning even more to you. And it's a beautiful thing. So also it's surprising that I'm surprised that you felt that way, but now you didn't think anyone would care, this little cute little FKT, whatever, but it's actually a big deal, because anything you're doing that most people know what it takes to do, like the mountains in general, let alone doing them all in one day, let alone doing them that fast, like 99% of people can't do that. So it's exciting. It's entertainment to see you do those things. So Will Robinson, who did the Northeast 115 through hike, when I heard about it, some listener told me about him. I hadn't heard of him right after he finished. So I reached out to him. I was like, oh, this would be a really fun podcast story. So I just reached out to him thinking like he's probably doing a ton of podcasts now. And he was so surprised and grateful. He's like, you want me to come on your podcast to tell about this? Really? And I'm like, do you realize what you just did? I think you're going to be on dozens of podcasts. I think you're going to have articles written about what you did. But like even him, who did the Northeast 115 through hike, he had no kind of thought process that it was like this big deal that you just did, that people want to hear this story, want to know, people admire what you did. Same thing for you. Us people who don't do these big days like that, we like the stories, me included. So I appreciate it. But it's what an awesome story. So now, what did you finally eat when you got to go to eat?
I went to the Lake Placid pub and I had some barbecue wings.
Amen.
That's what I ate.
That's what you wanted.
Yeah. And by the time I got there, I honestly was like, I don't know how I went from being so hungry to not being that hungry. I think, after a hard effort, sometimes I have a problem, eating a lot. We used to call it, after a 10K, we used to call it 10K tummy. Oh, you have 10K tummy. You can't eat now because you feel sick. And it's not like I felt sick, but it was just like, oh, like I'm not as hungry as I once was. But I did finally have
great
some wings.
Wings hit hard.
Yeah, especially being from Buffalo,
Yeah, sure. I've actually been, long story short, but I've actually, due to a project for something I'm working on with someone completely unrelated to the podcast or anything, I've had to learn about the origins of buffalo sauce and buffalo wings. So I'm pretty knowledgeable, surprisingly, on the origin story of buffalo sauce and buffalo wings. Funny that you say that. But anyways, okay, so you had some wings, you finished the day, you probably got your shower, I assume.
I did, before I got the wings.
Yes, of course. And then,
I went straight home.
And then people were posting this, you did your post. You obviously have a lot of traction from people congratulating you and this and that. You said you had blogs, people writing blogs about it. I saw your EMS blog about it. Mm-hmm. Congrats to you again. Very cool. So you set the FKT. You accomplished your goal.
I did.
So now 2 weeks out, how do you feel? Do you feel that kind of accomplishment?
Yeah.
Or is it, okay, good.
Yes, for
Glad
sure.
to hear. Because you should.
Yeah, definitely now. Like I said, it took a couple other people to get me to the point where I felt, accomplished from it. Because like I said, to me, it was just like my little thing that I was going to do. And it was going to be no big deal to anyone else. I've had success in running before, and that's never been a big deal to anyone. That's just been like my own personal thing. And I just thought that, this would go along with it. Like, oh, this will just be like, winning a half marathon, something like that. But it has gained a lot of traction. And, my coworkers are very, supportive of the effort. Sometimes they'll drop it to people. And, I don't talk about it, a lot. I'll talk about it with my friends and stuff like that. But, I do feel more achievement from it now.
Great.
Especially 2 weeks out. And I haven't really looked into what I'm going to do next, but I'm here all through the spring and through next summer. So I'm sure some more FKTs are in there.
Great. And you have, are there different FKTs for winter?
I think there's only like a couple specific winter FKTs, because I asked Katie about them and I was like, well, is there any specific winter ones? And she said that there's a winter bob, and to not tempt her with a good time. And I was like, I don't think I'll be doing the winter bob, Katie, but maybe, who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know. I have to finish my winter 46. So that'll take a couple out for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, never say never is what I'm also learning.
That's good. Very cool. Well, congrats to you. And as someone who has a thing or two to do with the Lake Placid 9'er, I appreciate the enthusiasm you showed to the challenge that I put together in those mountains, and choosing to go after it. So I appreciate it. Thank you. So I like to ask everyone the same few questions at the end of a podcast episode. So I'm going to ask you them as well. What's something that you bring in your backpack or your vest, whatever, that's very unique and personal and specific to you?
I would say that I think Aquaphor. I bring Aquaphor with me on every run, hike that I do, and any hike, especially in the winter as well, for things like, chapped lips and windburn and things like that as well. But it's great to just have with you. If I was having like some issues with some rubbing in my trail runners, I just throw that on and I'm fine. So that's probably one of the most unique things that I carry with me.
That's great. I've never had
multiple uses.
I've never had that answer. That's great. And that's a hot tip for people to bring.
I use it for all of my,
toss some Aquaphor on your foot, on your ankle, wherever. Avoid the rubbing. Cool. Now, second question, what makes the Adirondacks a unique place in your opinion? So you're from Western New York. You have now relocated your whole life to the Adirondacks. What is it about this place that is unique and made you decide, yes, I have to be there?
I think it was just a feeling of home, honestly. Going to college, and my dad had relocated after college, so I really didn't have like that sense of home anymore. That it just feels right. And coming up here and being here that first summer, it just felt right. It felt like the place where I wanted to be. And the Adirondacks are a beautiful, rugged place. They are so unique, and I know that you hear that they're rugged all the time, but they truly are, and they're different than any other place. They're different than the Whites. They are different than the Catskills. They're just so unique, and they're kind of their own thing, and each mountain is so different. No two are the same. And I just kind of like that uniqueness about it. Being here just feels like I'm always surrounded by nature and the things that I love. I can always go anywhere I want to go. I can run in the woods if I want. I can run on the roads. And a lot of my favorite things are here. I mean, my favorite races to run are here in Lake Placid. My favorite trails are here. So it just feels like home. And the uniqueness of it is just really, really, something that's special to me.
All right, great. And why do you hike? Why do you run up mountains? Why do you put yourself in these situations that are hard? They're physically challenging. They're mentally taxing. Why do you do it?
I think, there's many reasons I do it. I think that it feels good. In the moment, it might not feel great. You might be in, a lot of pain while you're doing it. But when you're done, just feeling, gratitude towards your body for what it's able to do, and, the positivity that comes with it, and the confidence building, to the point where it just feels good. It doesn't feel good physically, but it just feels good mentally. And, I've had a lot of, situations in my life that have pushed me towards running. And it's just a great feeling to have, when accomplishing these goals. And outside of that, just, an everyday run, after this, I'm going to go do my long run for the week, and I'm going to get a cookie afterwards, and it's just going to feel good. Yep. I might not look forward to doing it. It's a little chilly outside, but when it's done, it's going to feel great. And I think that's why I always do it. I always like chasing, kind of like not a sense of achievement, but like just knowing like, oh, I can do that, or oh, I did that, is something that I really like. And I'm always setting new goals, and I'm really determined to kind of just keep chasing things, and seeing how far I can really take it and how far I could go. So it's just, it's just something within me that just keeps pushing me to do something like this.
I love it. I love it. So now, Syd, where could people find you online?
You can find me at Where the Skies Are Blue on Instagram. I also have another Instagram as well, just Syd Steger. That's my original Instagram. But Where the Skies Are Blue is where I post everything about my hikes, my trail runs. If I go on a run, I'm probably posting at least a story about it. I kind of gotten away from my posts on Instagram, but I'm finishing my winter 46, hopefully this winter. So some more posts to come.
All right, great. Syd, thank you so much for stopping by the studio here to do this episode today. Go grab yourself a cookie at the lean-to on your way out. Awesome. Great to have you. And that's going to wrap up this episode of the Summit Sessions here on the 46 of 46 podcast. Syd Steger, 10 hours, 35 minutes, and 42 seconds. The new self-supported FKT for the Lake Placid 9'er. Check out lakeplacid9er.com, number 9er.com. If you've never seen those mountains, you've never hiked them, it's a fantastic list of mountains, all under 4,000 feet here in the Lake Placid region of the ADK. And then also check out 46of46.com to see more about what I offer there, from guide services to eBooks and much more. Check that out, 46of46.com. If you like the show, please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. I'd really appreciate it. Find me on social media at 46of46 podcast, and check back on Fridays for new mountains, new stories, new guests, and new episodes right here on the 46 of 46 podcast. Remember to always leave no trace, do the rock walk, and if you carry it in, carry it out. See you on the trails, everybody.